Yes, I slept with him, but it was just physical, not love. My wife called her affair with her boss a small mistake. I looked at her calmly and said, "You didn't hurt me. You freed me." My name is Santiago Briceño. I'm 38 years old and I work as a technical sales director in Monterrey, Nuevo León. For almost 3 years, I believed I had a solid marriage with Valeria Quintero, an ambitious 35-year-old corporate manager who was climbing the ladder faster than most people in our circle. We met at a networking event in San Pedro in late 2021. We connected over craft beer and shared ambitions, and we moved in together within 6 months. We had a small civil ceremony at the end of 2022. Valeria was intelligent, determined, and knew exactly what she wanted from life. I respected that about her. She earned around 1,800,000 pesos annually, managing supply chain operations for a mid-sized logistics company, while I generated about 2,200,000 in technical sales of industrial equipment. We weren't rich, but we lived comfortably in our 2-bedroom apartment in country, splitting the monthly rent of 42,000 pesos and building what I thought was a partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals. If you like stories of cold revenge and unexpected twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are new and unpublished stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. I have always been the type of person who values loyalty above all else. In my line of work, trust is currency. When I tell a client that a piece of machinery will increase their productivity by 15%, my word has to be gold. That same principle guided my personal relationships. I believe that Valeria and I operated on that same basis of honesty and commitment. But at some point, in early 2024, things started to change. Subtle changes. At first, Valeria started working later, claiming her company was expanding into new markets and required more strategy sessions at night. She would come home after 9 p.m., sometimes 10, smelling of expensive wine and making excuses about client dinners that seemed to happen 3 times a week. "The Peterson account is very demanding," she would say, leaving her bag by the door and going straight to the shower. "You know how these big company executives are. Everything has to be perfect." I would nod and believe her. Why not? We had been together long enough for me to know her work ethic. Valeria was ambitious, and ambition required sacrifices. Or so I told myself. The intimacy between us became mechanical, scheduled like another item on her business agenda. Our conversations shifted from dreams about the future to logistics about bills and schedules. She started picking fights over insignificant things, the way I arranged the dishes in the dishwasher, my weekend activities, even my preference for watching soccer instead of her favorite true crime documentaries. "You never want to do anything interesting anymore, Santiago," she complained one Sunday afternoon in February 2024. "When was the last time we went somewhere that wasn't your idea of fun?" I suggested we take a weekend trip to Valle de Bravo, maybe enjoy the lake and stay at that boutique hotel she had mentioned months ago. But Valeria dismissed it, claiming work commitments made it impossible. Everything was impossible lately. The first real alarm bell rang on a Thursday night in early March 2024. I had gotten home before Valeria, which was becoming increasingly rare, and I decided to move her car from the street to our assigned parking spot behind the building. As I adjusted the driver's seat back to my height, my hand brushed against something soft wedged underneath. I pulled out a black lace bra. It wasn't Valeria's size. It wasn't Valeria's style. For a moment, I just stared at it, my mind running through possible explanations. Maybe she had lent the car to a friend. Maybe someone had used our vehicle for something. But deep down, in that place where instinct lives, I knew exactly what I was seeing. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I carefully folded the bra and placed it in my desk drawer at home. I needed to be sure. In my business, you never make decisions based on incomplete data, and marriage deserved the same analytical approach. So I waited and watched. Valeria's patterns became clearer once I started paying attention. Her late meetings always fell on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She showered immediately upon arriving home, even on days she claimed to have been stuck in conference rooms all afternoon. Her phone, which used to be left casually on counters and tables, now lived permanently in her purse or pocket. The confirmation came 3 weeks later, on a rainy Tuesday at the end of March 2024. I had finished a presentation with a client downtown earlier than expected, and decided to grab dinner at a restaurant in the Zona Rosa before heading home. While waiting for my order of tacos al pastor, I saw Valeria through the window, sitting at a corner table with David Aguirre, a senior operations manager from her company. I knew David from the occasional office parties Valeria dragged me to. A married guy with 2 kids, he drove a silver BMW, always wore expensive suits that screamed, trying too hard to impress. What struck me wasn't that they were having dinner together. Corporate colleagues do that all the time. It was the way Valeria was leaning across the table, her hand covering his, her body language screaming intimacy rather than business. I paid for my food without touching it and followed them outside, staying a block behind as they walked to the Marriott Reforma in the city center. I saw them enter the hotel lobby together, Valeria's arm linked with David's, as if they were heading straight to their honeymoon suite after a strategic planning session. That night, when Valeria came home at 10:30, I was reading a technical manual on new hydraulic systems, acting completely normal. "How was your day, love?" she asked, kissing my forehead as she had for almost 2 years. "Productive," I replied without looking up. "I closed the Morrison account. 600,000 in equipment sales." "That's wonderful," she said, already heading to the bathroom. "I'm exhausted. These meetings with Peterson are killing me." I heard the shower run for 20 minutes, and I made my decision. No yelling, no accusations, no dramatic confrontations that would give her ammunition to paint me as the unstable one. Valeria wanted to play games. Fine, but she would find out I understood strategy better than she imagined. The next morning, I called my good friend, Rodrigo Villarreal, a guy I knew from college who now ran a small organic ranch on the outskirts of Santiago. Rodrigo had always been the kind of friend who asks few questions and offers practical solutions. "I need a place to stay for a while," I told him while we had coffee at a cafe near my office. "Temporary situation, but I need complete privacy." "The old Airstream trailer behind the barn," Rodrigo said without hesitation. "The previous tenant left last month. It has electricity, running water, internet connection, all included, 12,000 pesos a month." Perfect. Isolated enough that Valeria couldn't accidentally stumble upon my new address, but close enough to Monterrey to maintain my work schedule without raising suspicion. I started moving my belongings in small batches, a suitcase of clothes here, some personal documents there. Nothing Valeria would immediately notice was missing from the apartment. I opened a new checking account at a different bank, redirected my paychecks there, and slowly transferred my portion of our shared savings, money I had contributed since the first day of our relationship. Valeria's schedule made it easy. While she was at her Tuesday and Thursday meetings with David, I systematically removed traces of my life from the apartment. My favorite books, my collection of vintage concert posters, my grandfather's tools, my computer equipment. 3 weeks of careful extraction, and Valeria remained oblivious. The beautiful irony was that her affair actually made my exit smoother. She was so distracted by her secret romance that she stopped paying attention to anything happening at home. When she did bother to interact with me, it was usually to pick another meaningless fight. "Santiago, you left dirty dishes again," she complained one night in mid-April 2024. "Sorry about that," I said, putting them in the dishwasher. "I'll be more careful." What she didn't realize was that those were the last dishes I would ever leave in that sink. My opportunity came when Valeria announced a business trip to Guadalajara, supposedly to finalize some important contract negotiations. 4 days away, leaving on a Thursday morning in the last week of April 2024, returning on Sunday night. I knew exactly what kind of business she would be conducting in Jalisco. "Have a good trip," I told her, helping her load her suitcase into the Uber waiting outside our building. "I hope the deal with Peterson works out." She kissed me goodbye, and, for a fraction of a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or relief at getting away from the husband she was systematically betraying. Either way, it no longer mattered. On Thursday afternoon, I took a half day from work and returned to our apartment for the last time as Valeria's husband. The place already felt different, lighter somehow, as if a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been lifted from my shoulders. I gathered my remaining personal items, some family photos, my coffee mug collection, the expensive bottle of tequila Valeria had given me for my 37th birthday the previous year, in March 2023. Ironic that I would be taking it with me. Then I sat at our kitchen table and wrote a single sentence on a piece of paper. I hope it was worth it. I placed the note next to my wedding ring on Valeria's nightstand, where she would surely find it when she returned from her romantic getaway with David. No explanation was needed. She was smart enough to figure out what I had discovered, and honestly, I owed her nothing more than those 6 words. The drive to Rodrigo's ranch took 45 minutes on winding mountain roads that felt like a passage from one life to another. The Airstream trailer was exactly what I needed. Small, functional, and completely mine. For the first time in months, I could breathe without wondering what Valeria was really doing or who she was really with. I spent the late April weekend setting up my new space and planning my next moves. On Monday morning, I made the necessary calls to definitively close that chapter. I updated my contact information in all relevant places, ensuring that any emergency would no longer reach me through Valeria. I activated a new number on a second line that same day. I moved my work contacts and close friends there and left my original line active on the old phone. That way, Valeria's calls would go to that device while I remained unreachable. Valeria's return from Guadalajara was supposed to happen on Sunday night, the last day of April 2024. I imagined her walking into our empty apartment, calling my name, slowly realizing that half of our belongings had disappeared along with her husband. The note and the ring would make everything crystal clear. Rodrigo visited me on Tuesday morning, in early May 2024, bringing fresh eggs from his hens and a thermos of coffee. "Are you okay out here?" he asked, settling into one of the small chairs in the trailer. "I haven't heard a peep from you since Sunday." "Better than I've been in months," I told him honestly. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just remove yourself from a toxic situation. "Has she realized you're gone yet?" "Oh, she knows." I showed Rodrigo my old phone, which I had kept on to monitor Valeria's increasingly desperate attempts to contact me. 47 missed calls since Sunday night. 23 voicemails I hadn't bothered to listen to. Dozens of text messages that started angry and evolved into pleading. The pattern was predictable. First came confusion. "Santiago, where are you? Call me immediately." Then anger. "This is ridiculous. Whatever you think happened, we need to talk like adults." Eventually, desperation. "Please, Santiago, I can explain everything. Just give me a chance." But I had already given her plenty of chances every Tuesday and Thursday night for months. In fact, Wednesday brought a voicemail that lasted almost 3 minutes. Against my better judgment, I played it. "Santiago, I know you found out about David." Valeria's voice trembled through the speaker. "I know how this looks, but it's not what you think. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake that meant nothing. David and I never. Well, yes, we did, but it was just physical. It wasn't love, it wasn't real like what we have." I deleted the message halfway through. Valeria's definition of not real apparently included hotel rooms and business trips to Guadalajara. By Friday, she had apparently exhausted her phone harassment strategy and moved on to showing up at my workplace. My assistant buzzed my office intercom around noon. "Mr. Briceño, there's a woman here who claims to be your wife. She's quite insistent on seeing you. Please inform Mrs. Quintero that I'm in meetings all afternoon and that she should schedule an appointment through the proper channels if she needs to discuss business matters." Mrs. Quintero seemed to think this was personal, sir. "It is not," I said firmly. "Please escort her out of the building if she continues to cause a disturbance." That afternoon, Rodrigo mentioned that a woman in a black sedan had been driving slowly by his property several times during the day. Valeria had apparently discovered my general location, though she hadn't found the trailer yet. The ranch spanned 80 hectares with multiple access roads, so I wasn't particularly worried about unwanted visitors. Still, her persistence surprised me. In our time together, Valeria had never fought so hard for anything involving our relationship. Career advancement, yes. Professional recognition, absolutely. But our partnership had always taken a back seat to her ambitions. Now, faced with the consequences of her choices, she suddenly wanted to prioritize us. Too late for that conversation. 2 months passed before Valeria found me. I had settled into a routine that felt more natural than anything I had experienced in years. Waking up at dawn, coffee on the small trailer deck overlooking Rodrigo's pastures. Driving to Monterrey for work, returning to the mountains in the afternoon. Simple, quiet, honest. My sales numbers improved dramatically once I stopped worrying about Valeria's moods and schedules. The Morrison account led to 3 additional contracts worth over $1,700,000 in equipment sales. My boss mentioned a possible promotion to regional sales manager with a salary increase that would put me near $3 million annually. Life was good, better than good actually. Then, Valeria appeared at a coffee shop in downtown Santiago, where I had started having breakfast on Saturday mornings. It was late June 2024. I was reading El Financiero and enjoying some particularly excellent chilaquiles when she slid into the seat across from me. She looked terrible. Valeria had always been meticulous about her appearance. Perfectly styled hair, coordinated outfits, makeup applied with professional precision. The woman sitting across from me was wearing wrinkled clothes, minimal makeup, and had dark circles under her eyes that suggested she wasn't sleeping well. "Hello, Santiago," she said quietly. I folded my newspaper and studied her face for a moment. "Valeria, you're a hard man to find." "I'm not hiding," I replied. "I'm just not interested in being found by certain people." She flinched slightly at that, then pressed on. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About us, about our marriage, about the mistake I made." I took a sip of my coffee, noticing that Valeria's hands were trembling slightly. "There is no us anymore, Valeria. You made that decision when you chose David Aguirre over our marriage." "It wasn't a choice," she said desperately. "It was a stupid, meaningless mistake that got out of control. David and I are not together anymore. We haven't been for weeks." "Congratulations." "Santiago, please. I lost my job. The company found out about David and me. And since he's married with 2 kids, they decided I was the liability. I've been looking for work for a month with no luck. I can't afford the apartment anymore. I'm staying with my sister in Guadalupe, sleeping on her couch." I processed this information without emotion. Valeria's affair had cost her the career she had prioritized over our marriage, the financial independence she had valued over our partnership, and apparently, the relationship she had thought was worth destroying everything for. "I'm sorry to hear about your job situation," I said, genuinely. "That's unfortunate. Is that all you have to say?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Santiago, I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. I have always loved you. Can't we try to work through this?" I put down my coffee cup and looked her directly in the eyes. "Valeria, for almost 3 years I gave you everything I had. My trust, my loyalty, my commitment to building a future together. And you threw it all away for encounters in hotel rooms with a married colleague. You didn't love me then, and you don't love me now. You love the security and stability I represented, but that's not the same thing." "That's not true," she protested, tears starting to flow. "I know I hurt you." "You didn't hurt me," I interrupted calmly. "You freed me. You showed me exactly who you are when you think no one is watching. And honestly, Valeria, I'm grateful." She looked at me in shock. "Grateful?" "Absolutely, because now I can build a life with someone who truly deserves my trust and commitment. Someone who isn't going to throw away years of partnership for a few exciting afternoons with a colleague." "There is no one else," she said quietly. "Oh, yes, not yet," I admitted. "But there will be, because now I know my worth and I know I deserve better than someone who sees marriage as a backup plan for when their other options fail." Valeria sat in silence for several minutes, tears streaming down her face. She finally spoke in barely a whisper. "Is there anything I can say to make you change your mind?" "No." She nodded slowly, accepting what I had known for months, that our marriage had ended the moment she chose to betray everything we had built together. She stood up to leave, then turned back one last time. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Santiago." "I already have," I replied. Self-respect. I watched her walk away feeling nothing but relief that this chapter of my life was finally, definitively closed. Valeria had gambled our marriage on an office romance and lost everything. Her husband, her job, her financial security, and finally, her dignity. I hadn't needed to destroy her life. She had done it perfectly well on her own. 14 months later, in August 2025, I accepted the promotion to regional sales manager with a starting salary of $3,100,000. I bought a small house on the outskirts of Santiago with views of the mountains and enough space for the life I was building. Rodrigo became one of my closest friends, and through him, I met Sofia, a 33-year-old veterinarian who shared my values of loyalty and commitment. Valeria's betrayal had taught me something valuable. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to let someone else's bad decisions define your future. I didn't need to hurt her or shame her or make her life difficult. I just needed to walk away and build something better. And that's exactly what I did.